Are you a scrapbooker or are you interested in starting scrapbooking? Well, Kendra and I have the perfect challenge for you with many prizes you can win along the way as well. Hi everyone, it's Steph here from Chaos in the Craft Room. Thank you so much for joining back for part 2 of this video series. Today I'm really excited to go through Kendra's card challenge number 7, Steph's scrapbook edition part 2. So today we're going to go through Scrapbook Sketch pages number 2 through to 15. And if you haven't seen part 1, that's where I go through how to cut the pages and sketch number 1. So make sure you check that out. I'll have the link in the description box below, as well as the link to Kendra's video, who's got some fantastic tips on how to participate in this challenge and some prizes you can win. So let's get started. For those of you new to this challenge and want to participate, you just need to select 6 pieces of pattern paper, which are 12 by 12 inches, and follow the free cutting list in the description box below. And that also contains 15 scrapbook sketches in the same document that you can create with those pieces of pattern paper. For more information, head to my part 1 video of this challenge. But the papers I've chosen for this challenge are the Painted Flowers by Die Cut with a View. So sketch number 2. There are 3 pieces of pattern paper that we've already cut out from the cutting list, and I'll show you how I've created my scrapbook pages. And my sketch 1 is shown in the part 1 video of this series. I've just sped up the process video as well, just so it isn't too long, and I've also added chapters to this video so you can easily search for the section that you want to watch and potentially the sketch that you're interested in. When I create my scrapbook sketches, I first lay everything out onto the page and get a feel for exactly where everything sits according to where I want the photos. And that's just to make sure that I'm not covering too much of the pattern paper, or maybe I just want it to sit in a certain section of the pattern paper. So that's where I start off. And when I cut the borders for my photos, I like to have 1/4 of an inch larger than the size of the photo that I'm using for most of my pages. Sometimes I do it about 1/2 an inch, but it's really your personal preference and there's no rules to this challenge. It's really just about creating the scrapbook pages that you like, and these scrapbook sketches are really just a reference of how you can get started for your scrapbook pages. I find that's often the hardest part of figuring out where to start for your scrapbook page. For each sketch that I go through today, I'll show you in the top right hand corner the original sketch design for you to refer to as well, in case you are scrapbooking along as well. And so this is the final sketch number 2 that I've created. Okay, on to sketch number 3. So for this sketch, we're using 4 pieces of pattern paper, and one of them is in the shape of a flag. So as always, I then start by laying them onto the background and putting the photo borders onto the page just to see exactly where I want to stick it down. And for paper A, I want just that little bit showing through underneath the photo border down the bottom. These scrapbook papers that I'm using don't have any matching die cuts, which is always a nice, quick and easy way to scrapbook, especially if you don't have time. However, I love creating my own as well from the same pieces of pattern paper if I do have time. So for this sketch, I've just fussy cut out some flowers from the same paper sketch that I'll be using to decorate around the other pieces of pattern paper. And I just use them according to where I've sort of die cut them out. So this one, for example, I cut out from a corner, so I'm just placing it in the corner from my page as well. And if you have any bits that are just were from the edge of the paper, you can just put them on the edge of the photo borders, which is what I've done here. And then the matching sentiments are from the same pack that I've just fussy cut as well. And then to create the flag, I'm just putting a little dot into the center of the paper and cutting that out to make sure that my flag is an even flag. And once I've finished this scrapbook page, I decided just to ink around the edges of the flag to make it blend in a bit more with the background. And if you are new to scrapbooking, just remember to use acid-free glue and paper when you are scrapbooking to make sure that none of the photos get damaged. And if you are interested in uploading your scrapbook pages to Kendra's Facebook page so you have a chance to win some of the prizes, and you would like to blur out the photos or any personal notes, that's completely fine as well. So this is my final scrapbook page where you can see a bit of my ink blending as well. And I love how everything's from the same paper pack and pulls together really nicely with the color scheme. Okay, so on to sketch number 4. So for this one, we're using 2 pieces of pattern paper. And I love the simplicity of this design, as you could always use this as a scrapbook page layout for any leftover scrap strips of paper. And to decorate this page, I'm also using some flowers I fussy cut out from the same paper pack, and the colors just blend in really nicely. And the background piece of paper, I'm just using a plain piece of pink paper, but of course, if you prefer to use a piece of pattern paper in the background, that's no problem as well. For this sketch, I thought my photo for the top right of the page didn't need an extra border, and so I've just left the border off. And just make sure you create your scrapbook pages with your own touch, so don't feel like you have to stick strictly to the design that we're showing. These photos were from my trip to Switzerland, which is actually my original hometown, and I was visiting family there again, so it was great memories from this day. So sketch number 5. So for this sketch, we have 3 strips of pattern paper, and the middle strip is the shortest strip of them all, and the longest strips are on either side. And if you mix up what one goes where, left or right, it really doesn't matter. If you have a preference having it the other way around, that's completely fine. I have off-centered my middle strip towards the right of the page, and that's so that when I put the images down, it doesn't hide the whole pattern piece of paper, and that you can still see that pattern. Otherwise, it would be behind both the photos. But if you prefer it central and to off-center some of your photos, or have a vertical photo instead of horizontal photo, that's fine as well. Once again, a great sketch design that you can do with any leftover scrap pieces of paper. And to decorate this page, I found some matching plain pink paper and die cut a few flowers from them. And then for the leaves, I've used some green paper that was in the same paper pack and just cut out some green leaves from them. And I wanted to use up the leftover scrap pieces of paper remaining after I had die cut those leaves. So I actually just teared them up to create a nice contrasting background to have behind the little seashell that I wanted in the top right of the page. And this is a great way to use up some scrap pieces of paper to give a sort of a rougher scrapbook look. And I really enjoy that look, especially if you have other trinkets you want to add to the page from your travels, any tickets or something ripped out from a brochure. And it creates a bit of texture to the page as well. In my sketch number 1, I've also shown what label maker I use to create my extra little notes that you can see there with the black strip and white writing. And I really find it an easy way to add little notes to my page, which are a lot quicker than die cutting out each letter, or sometimes I also like handwriting onto the scrapbook pages as well. And here's my final page. Okay, on to sketch number 6. So for this sketch we use 5 pieces of pattern paper, and one I've already cut out into the flag shape as per the sketch design, and I'll show you how I do that in the next sketch. When I go to stick down the piece of pattern paper for this sketch, I have to use a ruler to make sure I'm sticking them down straight as they're meant to line up across the page. And I did find when I stuck this one down that a little bit of glue came out the end, and I'm not too worried about that because I'm going to be adding some foil around the edges, because the background of this sketch says to add an element of embossed, stenciled, textured or foiled. And this is a lot easier to do on the card challenge version, as you can easily emboss or stencil the whole background on a smaller piece of paper. However, for the scrapbook challenge, you don't need to do it for the whole background. You can just do elements of it on the actual scrapbook page. I'll be adding foil strips to this page as I find it complements the rest of the pattern paper. There's already some gold foil in the back of the black pattern paper, which I'm not sure if you can completely see with the lighting. I do apologize for the lighting changes that do occur occasionally. I've been filming this with natural light, and sometimes a cloud passes by and hides the sun a little bit, so the screen changes to be a little bit darker. So hopefully you can still see it okay. My glue bottle just ran out of glue, so I used my other glue, and I have to go and top up my bottle with some more glue. I really like decantering my own glue into the smaller bottle, as it's a lot cheaper that way, especially with how much I do scrapbook and do make cards. And this is how it looks with the final foil strips added to the page, as well as some pink hearts to tie in the center color as well. Okay, so sketch number 7. For this sketch, we've got 3 pieces of pattern paper, which all need to be cut into flags. And so to do that, I usually find the easiest way is to measure up 1 to 2 inches up from the bottom of the paper, depending how deep you want the cutout of the flag to be. And then at that height, I then measure the full width across. So in this example, we've got our widest one is 3 inches wide. So I've measured 1.5 inches across, so to the center of the page, and put a dot. And that way, when I go with my scissors, I can cut straight from the edge up to the dot on the page, and I've got an evenly cut flag. And then I go and do this for all the flags. And the third flag is quite dark paper, so I can't see my grey lead too well on that, so I just flip the paper around and mark it on the back of the page. Before gluing them down, I like to just put the photo border on the page to make sure I've got enough space for that to fit and have the flags exactly where I want them to be. And in the top left corner, we need to put an embellishment or a shape. I was really debating if I put a small photo, one that's not full size, otherwise I'll hide the flags too much, but I decided on using a sentiment instead. And I really just fussy cut these sentiments from the same paper pack And I love it when a paper pack has some sentiments because they always match the papers really nicely. And then to decorate the page, I've just die cut a few bits and pieces to decorate it. And the little branches that I've got there, I sometimes just use that thicker glue and just sort of wipe it on. But the other option is I've also got a two-way pen glue. And the two-way pen glue is really easy to apply just because it is a pen and it's so fine and it's blue color initially, and then it dries clear. So that way you know exactly where you've put the glue, and really helpful for really small die cuts. I just find it doesn't stick as well, so it's okay for thin pieces of paper, but I certainly wouldn't stick too much more down with it, apart from sequins also works quite well. And the final scrapbook page for sketch 7. So we're now over halfway. Okay, so for sketch 8, we've got 2 pieces of pattern paper, and these are in the bottom right of the scrapbook page. And before sticking them down, as always, I'm just checking exactly where I want them on the page. Now I've got my photo borders there, and for me to know where I want the gaps, I've actually pulled it to the side of the page exactly in the same position that I want to stick it down. So that gives me an indication exactly where to stick down the other pieces of pattern paper. Then to decorate this page, at the moment I'm absolutely in love with these oval die cuts I have from Cat Scrappiness, and they have this adorable stitched pattern around the edges. So I just die cut these shapes from pattern paper in the same pack. And before cutting out the leaves that I've got on this page, because I thought it took a bit of time to glue them all down in the other scrapbook pages I created. So I've actually put on some double-sided adhesive on one side of the paper so that then I die cut it. And so that way, all I have to do to stick them down is just peel off the other side of the double-sided tape, so it's a lot quicker to stick down, but it's something that I don't do too often just because I find it does waste a lot of the adhesive doing it that way, but it certainly is a lot quicker. And I still sometimes struggle to get off the double-sided tape on the small die cut. It takes me a while to get the right spot to peel it off, but eventually get there. And some people, when they scrapbook, prefer to use backgrounds that have a pattern paper on them, and that's just because it makes the page feel a little bit fuller and you have to do less die cutting and sticking down sometimes on top, but it's really just your personal preference. And for me, it just depends on the page that I'm scrapbooking, really. Sometimes I like it to look a bit busier, and sometimes I like just having the more simple look. And this is my final page. So for sketch number 9, there is only one piece of pattern paper. And for this sketch, I start by laying everything onto the page. Most of the papers are towards the left of the page as per the sketch, but if you prefer it to be central, you certainly could do that. The reason why I have kept it more to the left of the page is that's just so the pattern paper doesn't overlap too much of the image and the photo that I want to put down. But if you have a smaller image, or you don't mind it overlapping, or you've got maybe a horizontal image, you could certainly center it if that's your preference, as the sketches are quite versatile and really allow you to just use them as a reference. To decorate this page, I've just used a sentiment from the same pack and die cut very similar shapes that I've used to the rest of the scrapbook pages to keep it consistent, just with the colours that match this page. On the top right of this sketch, there's 3 circles. So I've decided to put 3 flowers there, but of course you don't need to have them evenly in a row like they're shown on the sketch. or they don't have to be circles at all, really. They can be any shape. It's just to suggest to put something on that section of the page as per your preference. And so I do apologize for the change in lighting. I am using natural light to film this, and occasionally there is a cloud that comes across and blocks the sun. So hopefully you can still see it okay. And then at the end, I decided I wasn't quite sure. I thought something was missing. The black paper, pattern paper, actually has some gold foil through it. So I decided to add some little sequins to it. I don't do that too often with scrapbooking. And the reason is if you've got this scrapbook page at the very back of your scrapbook and you've got all this weight of paper sitting on top of it, I find sometimes it can indent the papers in front of it. But for this scrapbook page, I'm having it near the front of my scrapbook album, so I didn't think it mattered to put the sequins on there. And another scrapbook page completed. Okay, so for sketch number 10. So for this sketch, we've got 3 strips of pattern paper to use, and that's paper D. And this is another fun sketch for you to create with any leftover scraps that you have as well in the future if you ever want to make this sketch again. So for this sketch, we've got 1 main circle and then an optional additional 3 circular photos of any size. So I've used 2 circular photos of 3 3/4 inches in diameter, 1 circle that's 3.5 inches in diameter, and 1 circle that's 3 inches in diameter. So they get slightly smaller on the way up. But of course, it's completely up to you. And if you don't have any circular die cuts, then don't worry, they don't specifically have to be circular. If that's something you can't do, you can play around, make them oval or square or whatever you have at home. Don't feel like you can't do this sketch if you don't have any circular die cuts or don't want to cut them out by hand in a circle shape. And to decorate this sketch, I've got the same sort of leaves that I've used in my other sketches, but I just thought they wrap around the circles really nicely, and so it sort of ties them in really well. And I've also inked around the edges of the flowers just to make the flower shape stand out a bit more, because I found, because I used pattern paper for these flowers, that it was quite busy and the shape had gotten a little bit lost. So by inking around the edges, just a bit of a dark grey ink, I found that it was really effective in bringing out the shape. I was sticking down the branches for these ones. I really wished I had used adhesive sheets again because they were quite fiddly to stick down, and I kept getting a bit of glue on my fingers, which was pulling them up a little bit as I was trying to stick them down. And once you've created your scrapbook pages, either individually or when you've created all of them, make sure you do upload them onto Kendra's Facebook page as well, which is in the description box below. And that's to make sure that you can go in for a chance to win some prizes. So the challenge goes until the end of September 2022. So you have just over another month or so to enter those submissions. At the very end of the month, Kendra draws a winner from the official entry folder. So make sure you do submit your photo into that folder if you want a chance to win any prizes. On to sketch 11. So this sketch has 2 pieces of pattern paper, and the main square has a border with it on the sketch, but I also decided to add a border for paper E as well, as I just thought it really tied it in nicely, and I'm just using black paper for those borders. So I stick them down first. I've decided to use also the additional paper strip from paper D as well, as I thought it tied in nicely with this page. And for the photos for this sketch, it doesn't have to be a straight photo as per the sketch. You can certainly put on an angle, or if you want to use a different shape or size photo, that's completely fine as well. To decorate the page, I just found a few inks that I had that matched the color paper that I was using, and inked up a few white die cuts that I had in a rustic sort of way. And that was certainly a lot of fun. And then I die cut some petals from some matching paper as well to add to the page. I also absolutely love this sticker pack from Cocoa Vanilla Studio. This specific pack is called These Days, and I love them just because they can be popped out from the sheet, so you can place them on the page and play around where you want to put them, unlike most other brands of stickers. Most other brands, you need to peel them off the sticker pack and then hold it up to where you want them potentially on the page to see if you're happy with them there. And then if I change my mind, I need to stick them back onto the sticker book or page, and they usually don't stick down perfectly, and parts of it are still folded back up. And so, however, with this pack, I find I can just pop them out, and that way when I'm placing them on the page, they're not sticky. I can wait to the end to peel off the side to show that sticky adhesive part. So they're so much more user-friendly when you're not sure exactly where on the page you want to put them. And they're also really thick. I would guess around 300 GSM, but it's a lot thicker than a lot of stickers I generally use, which I really like, that sturdiness, and they add that bit of dimension to the page as well. And there we have Sketch 11. For sketch 12, there are 2 pieces of pattern paper. And at the bottom of the page, there are also 2 flags that you can cut out from any paper, with that being plain or pattern, depending on your preference. And then next to that, you also have any shape or embellishment you can use to decorate. So I've decided to find an ink that's a similar blue to the blue on my pattern paper, and I'm just inking up a few flowers that to spread around the page. And I often use a black border for my photos, and there's a few reasons for that. First of all, black goes with everything, so I find the color never clashes, but also the black really highlights the photo no matter what the photo is. I find it works really well. And it also separates the colors from the photo to the colors of the scrapbook page. And sometimes the colors blend in really well, so it doesn't matter. But other times I find the colors can be a little bit different, and that's what I find really helps break it up. These photos are from my holiday in Greece, which was a lot of fun, and I can't wait to head back there. And I'd love to hear what your favourite holiday has been to scrapbook in the comments below. And there's my final sketch 12 scrapbook page. Not long to go now, so we're up to sketch 13. And I absolutely love this sketch. I think it's one of my favorites. It only has 1 pattern paper, and I also chose to use the optional flag from paper F. Now, so I'm just cutting this optional paper into the flag shape, as I haven't done that already. And for the 3 strips of paper at the bottom of the page, I've actually decided to use one of my scrap pieces of paper that I cut off the top of the paper from this same paper pack that has the hole in it, which I knew I could cover up when I look at the actual sketch, that I'll have the circle there to hide that. So it's a great way to use up your scraps just by hiding them with other die cuts and things, elements on the page. I haven't quite decided what photo to use for the circle. I thought it would be nice to have another photo, a circular shape on this page, but haven't decided what that is, so I'll leave that blank for now. And as I'm using the background paper for this pattern, I've decided also to leave off the main large optional paper that does hide a lot of the main page. So I thought it's just not needed for this page, as I didn't want to hide so much of that beautiful pattern paper in the background. But you could certainly add that extra layer on if that's what you would like. And then to decorate the page, once again, I've just done some fussy cutting from the same paper pack so it matches the style of the page. And there is my final page. Well, nearly final. Still got a photo to add, but all the hard work has been done. For sketch 14, we start off with 2 pieces of pattern paper from the cutting list, and then I've decided to add on an extra little strip on top of the bottom piece, which certainly isn't as per the sketch, just how I've decided to decorate my page. To decorate the page, I've got a few leftover flowers that I made from the previous sketches, so another really easy way to make your sketches match and your whole scrapbook page linked together is to use similar die cuts throughout it, but usually I don't mind if the pages look quite different. And I've also just varied the flowers a little bit on this page because this page is just pink and blue, so I'm just added a pink center to the blue flowers just to tie it in even better. This sketch also has 3 dots in the top right of the page, and I've decided to use 2 of the flowers and a pink heart, and they're not exactly in a straight line, but once again, just vary from the sketch from how you want to create the page. If you're looking for some more scrapbook inspiration, I've also created the previous card challenge into a scrapbook edition as well. So if you would like that extra inspiration, make sure you head over and check out that video on my YouTube channel as well. Otherwise, if you're a YouTuber and do scrapbooking, please let me know in the comments below. Or if you have a YouTuber that you like watching that does scrapbooking, I would love to know as well. And here we have another completed page. And lucky last, sketch 15. So this sketch has 2 strips of pattern paper and each of them have a border. So I'm just using black paper for my border and getting that all set up before I get started on my scrapbook page. And although this is one of the simple sketches, the challenge on this sketch is to build a scene on the page as per the instructions on the sketch. So I've decided to add one of my all-time favorite stamp and die set to this page. Now you'll have noticed that I haven't used borders for these photos, so if at any time, even if the sketch tells you to use a border and you don't want to, that's completely fine, just leave that off. And I really like the little sentiment on this page, be who you are. I just think it's always such an important message and so true. And these cute little characters are from my Lawn Fawn Butterfly Kisses set. I think they're so cute and hold cute little flowers as well. And in this photo, I'm just patting one of the alpacas, and we actually have alpacas at home too, but I always get excited when I see other alpacas. And now just to trim off the edges, so I've stuck it partly to the table, so if that's all right, we can just wipe that off. And then this is my final sketch. So we've got 15 scrapbook pages all created by using 6 pieces of pattern paper. I hope you've really enjoyed this challenge. Thank you so much for watching today. If you like this video, I would absolutely love your support to hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. And I can't wait to see what sketches you create. So make sure you use the hashtags shown below when you post any pictures of your scrapbook pages, and don't forget to upload them to Kendra's Facebook page where you can win some prizes. And I can't wait to see what you've created. I'll see you next time.